Divorce, my divorce, was something that I've always been uncomfortable talking about. I felt like a failure, ashamed that my infidelity was a big reason why it happened. It was like a public display of my own flaws, and I carried the guilt around like a sack of broken bricks. But in the aftermath, I realized I had to press an invisible reset button within me to build myself to be a better person, someone that I wanted to be, someone that was going in the right direction. So I took a couple of sabbaticals, and it didn't all start coming together until this last sabbatical. Fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, this is my story of transformation weaved in with some travel adventure. When we're looking for something, we often don't find it in the place we expect. True love on Tinder, the answers to the big questions in church, our car keys in our coat pocket. Revelations happen when you least expect them. I had my moment in the gym. I'm in Indonesia, just got off a boat, spent the last 2 weeks diving in the ocean, conquering my lifelong fear of water. The gym hasn't been a big deal for me last year. I made it a priority if you were here when I talked about the burpees last week. But let me tell you about this Exiguous gym that I found in this quaint port city. When I say gym, I use the term loosely because it was exiguous and cramped. The equipment looked like it belonged in an antique roadshow. It was packed with locals and members of the Indonesian army. There's something else odd about this gym. The entire gym was lined with a brown, old carpet, and everyone was working out, sweating, bare feet. Okay, bare feet I get, I'm in Indonesia, it's sweltering hot. But the carpet, and that looked like a cheesecake factory for toe fungus. Deciding that it was better to do squats than worrying about what this gym floor had to offer, I slipped off my sandals, paid the equivalent of $1, and walked in. And I see the sign, Ghostbusters type warning sign that says no shoes are allowed, and I'm setting up the squat rack when I get a text message. It's from a number I don't recognize. It reads, "You might not remember me, but you talked to me about your divorce. I'm going through divorce right now. I replay our conversation, and it helps me. How long did it take for you to get over your divorce? Leah. Leah. Oh, Leah. I met her more than 6 months ago in South Africa." So I quickly read her back, I sent her messages of support, and I finish off with, "Keep kicking and pushing forward." And I press send. Fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, let me tell you about what I was doing in South Africa. I was there for the world's largest sardine migration. Every year for about 1 month, millions and millions of sardines migrate all along the South African coast. And I was there for that. Not only was I there, all the predators were there too. I've never seen so many sharks, dolphins, whales all in one place. And then the sky was completely full of these amazing little birds called gannets. They would dive back down into the ocean and swim to try to chase after a sardine. Diving in the ocean there was like having front row seats to Mother Nature's most spectacular display. These sardines had a trick up their sleeves. They weren't just going to get eaten. Anytime they were attacked, they would form into a sardine ball, undulating, forming and reforming in the water as a shark would come from one angle. And then maybe a dolphin would come from a different angle. The action was everywhere, and meanwhile, the gannets would be raining down from the sky, chasing after sardines. Every time a gannet come down, it would look like a missile because there would be air bubbles in the water. There's so much action at times, I had no idea where to look. I was witnessing the cycle of life and death every single second. Being in the ocean, I loved every moment of it. I felt alive, I felt full of energy. I also loved how unpredictable it was. We were in the water, in and out of the water for 8 hours a day. And every time I was in the ocean, something was different. The sardine ball was different. The predators were different. It was very chaotic. But I also realized the sardines were moving around in a symphony. And that's the one thing that was consistent, is that these sardines, they stuck to their defense mechanism. They stuck to the only thing that could prevent them from being eaten, is to form that ball. And they were so determined, forging forward with their migration. And as the days went on, I found myself mesmerized by the sardines. You can see their individual little silvery eyes. And I found myself silently cheering them on as the predators attacked. At night, my fellow divers and I would sit around a fire. We would share stories, exchange numbers, and talk about the events of the day. I was there for 10 days, but there's people from all around the world, all with different schedules, coming and going. It was there where I met Leah. Leah's a Chinese girl living in New York City. She was married, but traveling solo in South Africa. She had so many questions about my sabbatical. But it was there where I did something different for the very first time. Maybe because she was a complete stranger, or maybe because she was leaving the next day, I opened up to Leah about my divorce. I said, Leah, at the end, we were just like sardines. It just wasn't working. And no matter how big of the house I was living in, I felt like I was living with a roommate, packed like a can of sardines. We were both trapped, and when it all came tumbling down, I felt a sense of relief, followed by a sense of sadness that just permeated everything that followed. I started doing drugs, started drinking heavily, until one day I found myself alone in my living room, thinking, I was happy once. Where did it all go wrong? And that's when I realized it wasn't just one moment that led to my divorce. My entire life was headed that way. It was the things I did, it was the things I didn't do. Like work on my own self-worth. But Leah, that might have been rock bottom for me, but it had to happen to get me to where I am today. My divorce was a catalyst for me to start journaling, to realize where I came from, but to also realize where I was headed. My divorce was a catalyst for me to redesign my life, to start traveling the world to get a greater perspective, to start facing my fears. It even led me to come to Toastmasters for the very first time. Leah, I'm still like the sardines. I'm changing directions, kicking and pushing forward. And the whole sardine migration, in a way, that was like a symbolic reflection of my own transformative journey. Back at this Indonesian gym, feet flakes and moldy gym carpet, Leah texts me back. She says, David, you write beautifully, and your words give me hope. When I saw that message, I cried. It was at that moment when I felt all my struggles was worth it. I knew I was doing the right things. There was evidence right there. I was headed in the right direction. I've never thought of myself as a good writer, but I've been divorced for 4 years and I've been writing every single day. Leah would have had no idea how powerful that message was when she sent it to me. But what I do know is that my struggles helped at least one other person. So, if you have something stuck deep inside your heart, don't keep it there. Let it go. Let it out to someone, somewhere, somehow, some way. And when you feel like things aren't going your way, take a deep breath. Think about those resilient little sardines. Keep kicking, keep pushing forward.